He put on his headphones, just like he did every night. For most people, music was a way to escape, but for Daniel, it was a ritual, something that kept him grounded in the silence of his empty apartment. The city outside buzzed with the distant hum of traffic, but in his room, everything felt unnervingly still. Tonight, though, the silence seemed heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. When the soft notes of his playlist began, he closed his eyes and let himself drift. The world faded, replaced by a cocoon of sound. But then between the beats, he heard it, faint, fragile, and cold. A whisper. At first, he thought it was part of the track. Maybe a glitch, maybe just his tired mind playing tricks. But it came again, clearer this time. Don't turn around. Daniel froze. His heart hammered in his chest, blood rushing to his ears. He yanked the headphones halfway off, waiting, straining for any other noise. The room was silent, the kind of silence that makes you suddenly aware of every shadow in the corner, every creak in the floorboards. It didn't make sense. He lived alone. The apartment was locked. And yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was standing just inches behind him. He tried to reason with himself. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe his brain had confused the lyrics. But deep down, a primal instinct told him it was real. The whisper hadn't just been sound. It had felt directed at him, personal like a breath against his neck. Every part of him screamed to turn around, to face whatever was there. But the words echoed inside his skull, "Don't turn around." And that left him with a terrifying question. What would happen if he did? The music had stopped, but he hadn't pressed pause. His phone screen was black, though the battery had been full moments before. The silence now wasn't empty. It was charged, heavy, alive. Daniel sat frozen in his chair, gripping the headphones as if they could protect him from what lingered in the darkness. And then, slowly, he heard it again, closer this time. Don't turn around. Daniel sat frozen in place. The words "don't turn around" echoing in his head like a warning he couldn't escape. His breaths were shallow, ragged, and the room felt smaller with every passing second. The shadows seemed to lean closer, pressing against him, testing his resolve. It wasn't the first time he had heard strange things in this apartment. For weeks, maybe months, there had been little signs, barely noticeable at first. A glass left on the kitchen counter would be in the sink the next morning, though he lived alone. A window he swore he locked would sometimes be cracked open. He had dismissed them all as forgetfulness, stress, or long work nights blurring into each other. But deep down, he knew it was more. Daniel had always been sensitive to sound. As a child, he remembered waking up to whispers no one else heard. His parents brushed it off as nightmares, but the memory clung to him. Once, when he was 7, he had followed a whisper into the hallway of his old house. He swore he had seen someone standing at the end, tall, featureless, like a shadow detached from its owner. He had run back to bed, pulling the blanket over his head. That night, the whisper had told him the same thing it told him now. Don't turn around. The familiarity of the words chilled him. It wasn't random. It wasn't his imagination. This thing, whatever it was, had been following him for years. The apartment groaned as the wind rattled the window pane. Daniel's eyes darted to the black screen of his phone. He tapped it, but it stayed dead, lifeless, though he had charged it just hours ago. He felt exposed, disconnected, as though the one link to the outside world had been cut off on purpose. His mind raced. What if he ignored the warning and turned around? Was the whisper protecting him or luring him? The not knowing was worse than anything. His skin prickled with goosebumps, and every second stretched like an eternity. Memories surged back, his last relationship ending because of his late-night paranoia, friends calling him jumpy, his coworkers joking about his noise-canceling headphones that never left his side. They thought it was about avoiding people, but really it was about avoiding them. The voices that crept in when he let silence take over. Tonight, though, he wasn't imagining things. He could feel it. The air behind him wasn't empty. It carried weight, presence. Like someone was standing there, close enough that if he reached out, his fingers would brush against a figure that wasn't supposed to exist. The whisper came once more, drawn out and deliberate, sending a shiver straight down his spine. "Don't turn around." And in that moment, Daniel realized something terrifying. The voice wasn't coming from behind him this time. It was inside his headphones. Daniel pressed the headphones tighter against his ears, as though clinging to the sound could make it less real. But the whisper didn't fade. It was steady, measured, and intimate, as if someone was speaking from inside his head. His pulse thundered, yet his body refused to move. Fear had locked him in place, but another force kept him there too. Curiosity. He wanted answers. For years he had run from this voice, pretending it was imagination, exhaustion, anything but real. Tonight, it was undeniable. And deep down, a part of him, the part he didn't like to admit existed, wanted to know why him. The whisper fell silent, leaving only the sound of his uneven breathing. Daniel risked pulling one ear cup slightly away. Silence. When he pressed it back, the faint hum of static returned. He wasn't safe with them off, and he wasn't safe with them on. The headphones had become a trap, and yet he couldn't bring himself to remove them completely. A memory surfaced, sharp and uninvited. His mother's voice, years ago, when she had warned him, "Don't ever ignore what you hear, Daniel. Some people are meant to listen. Others, they shouldn't." At the time, he thought it was one of her cryptic sayings, a remnant of the folklore she grew up with. But now, it felt like a warning he had failed to understand. And then came the complication. His apartment door creaked. Daniel's breath hitched. The lock was still bolted. He had checked it twice. But the sound was unmistakable, the slow, dragging squeak of a hinge. He fought the urge to look, every muscle straining against instinct. His chest felt tight, trapped between two impossible choices. If he turned, he disobeyed the whisper. If he stayed still, he risked whatever had just entered the room. The moral dilemma gnawed at him. Was it braver to face what haunted him, or to trust a disembodied voice that had stalked him since childhood? Either choice could destroy him. The air grew colder, prickling against his skin. He could sense movement, a shift in the atmosphere, like someone or something circling him. And then another voice joined in, faint but different. Not a whisper this time, but a woman's voice, trembling, distant. "Daniel, please listen." He nearly ripped the headphones off. The voice wasn't familiar, yet it carried an ache of desperation that pierced straight through him. He had never heard it before, and still felt like she knew him. Two voices, one warning him not to turn, another pleading with him to listen. The conflict spiraled. If he listened to one, he betrayed the other. And beneath the terror, another thought pushed its way in, a dangerous, selfish thought. What if this wasn't about fear? What if the voices were giving him a choice, and he had been chosen for a reason? His grip on the headphones tightened until his knuckles turned white. He sat trembling, suspended in a nightmarish balance, while the two voices overlapped, one calm, one frantic, both demanding his loyalty. And then the static swelled, the voices blending into something else entirely. The sound of his own name, spoken in his own voice. Daniel's heartbeat was a drum in his ears. The room felt tighter, as if the walls had shifted closer without him noticing. The two voices tangled in his headphones, one calm, steady, warning him not to turn, the other urgent, desperate, begging him to listen. Both were fighting for him, pulling him apart. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the headphones off, throw them across the room, run until his legs gave out. But he didn't move. His body refused. Fear was no longer the only thing holding him still. Something else was keeping him rooted in place. The static swelled again, sharp and hissing, and then he heard it. His name, his own voice, clear, distorted, coming from inside the headphones. "Daniel," he swallowed hard. "The sound of yourself calling you is wrong in every possible way." He tried to steady his breath, but each inhale caught in his throat. His hand hovered near the power button, but the phone was still dead. No escape. Then another sound, a shuffle across the floorboards. Behind him, short, uneven steps. Slow, deliberate. The whisper returned, colder now, carrying weight. "Don't turn around." The woman's voice fought against it, urgent and cracking. "Daniel, look at me." please. Before it's too late. His mind was a storm. 2 commands. 2 truths. Which one would destroy him? He thought of his mother again. The way she used to wake in the night, pacing the hallway, muttering words in a language he didn't know. The way she'd check on him, pressing her hand over his ears as if protecting him from something she could hear, but he couldn't. He'd buried that memory, but now it clawed back. Had she heard the same voices? Was this inherited? The shuffling grew closer. His chair trembled ever so slightly, as if brushed by something unseen. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. His pulse raced in stuttering bursts. Then, faintly, he heard something else. Breathing. Not his own. It was behind him. He almost broke, almost turned. But he remembered the warning. He gripped the edge of his desk so hard the wood bit into his skin. His jaw clenched, his chest heaved. The woman's voice cut through again, raw with urgency. They're lying to you. If you don't look now, you'll never know. His throat tightened. Never know. The words hit him harder than the fear. Knowledge, truth, that was the hook buried inside him. He'd spent his whole life running from shadows, brushing off whispers, burying strange memories. What if this was his only chance to understand? But what if turning meant the end? The static surged. Louder. Sharper. The sound grew unbearable, drilling into his skull until it felt like his head would split. And then it stopped. Silence. Daniel sat trembling in the dark, the air behind him colder than ever. And in that silence, one thought rose above all others. If he didn't make a choice soon, the choice would be made for him. The silence pressed in, heavier than the static had ever been. Daniel sat frozen, gripping the desk, every muscle wound tight. His ears strained for the next sound. Another whisper, another shuffle. But what came next wasn't from behind him. It was from inside his headphones again. This time, it wasn't the warning voice or the woman's pleading tone. It was different, familiar. His mother's voice. Daniel, you've already turned around. The words struck him like a blade. His throat closed, breath catching in his chest. His mother had been gone for years. Hearing her voice was impossible, but the certainty in it, the way it wrapped around him, felt undeniable. Already turned around? His mind spun. He was sitting still, staring forward. But as the thought sank in, something horrifying dawned. The room around him didn't look quite the same. The corner where his lamp usually stood was empty. The window curtains looked older, frayed. It wasn't his apartment anymore. He blinked hard, panic searing through him. Somehow, while frozen in place, the world had shifted. His desk was the same. His chair beneath him was the same. But the shadows that pressed against the walls belonged to another place. And in those shadows, something moved. The woman's voice pierced the headphones again, frantic now. Don't trust her. That's not your mother. It never was. Daniel's chest tightened. Betrayal, confusion, terror. He was drowning in them. His mother had always been the anchor of his strange memories, the one who warned him to listen. If this wasn't her, then who had been whispering to him all along? The whispers multiplied. The calm warning voice, the woman's pleas, the echo of his mother, even the one in his own tone, all speaking at once, overlapping, drowning him in contradictions. Each demanded his loyalty. Each claimed to be the truth. And then came the twist. Through the chaos, a different sound rose. A steady knock. Once, twice, 3 times. Not behind him this time. Not in the room. From inside his headphones. Knuckles rapping on wood, impossibly close to his ears. Daniel tore one side of the headphones away, desperate, but the knocking grew louder. Faster, like fists pounding on a door that didn't exist. The woman's voice screamed, "Open it, Daniel." Before they do, his blood ran cold. Open what? He looked down at his desk, and only then did he see it, a faint outline in the wood, where the grain formed the shape of a door. A door no one else would notice. A door that hadn't been there seconds ago. The whispers roared in unison, clashing and desperate, each warning him, each urging him. His heart pounded so hard it felt like it would split. Behind him, the shuffling stopped. Something was waiting. In front of him, the hidden door pulsed faintly, as if alive. And Daniel knew, with a bone-deep certainty, whichever choice he made, there was no going back. Daniel's hands hovered over the faintly glowing outline of the door in his desk. The shadows behind him were unmoving now, waiting, patient, hungry. The whispers in his headphones merged into a deafening chorus, pleading, warning, commanding. Each voice pulled him in a different direction, each claiming to hold the truth. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every memory he had ever ignored. The whispers as a child, the strange occurrences in the apartment, the words of his mother. This was the moment he had been running from his entire life. The choice between obedience and discovery, fear and courage. His fingers pressed against the desk. The outline rippled under his touch, like water responding to a stone. Slowly, impossibly, a door emerged. He pulled it open. Immediately, the room shifted. Shadows dissolved, and the air lifted, leaving him in a quiet, dimly lit corridor. At the end, a figure waited. Not monstrous, not terrifying, but human. Familiar. It was the woman. The one whose voice had pleaded with him, who had guided him through the maze of whispers. She smiled faintly, and behind her, a faint echo of his mother appeared, nodding in approval. You had to choose, she said softly, to listen and to trust yourself. Fear will never lead you to the truth. Daniel's legs trembled as he stepped forward. The whispers fell silent, one by one, leaving only the residual hum in his headphones. For the first time in years, he felt clarity. But then he noticed something he hadn't expected. Along the walls of the corridor were doors, countless doors, each carved into the surface, each faintly glowing. They're all yours, the woman said. Every choice you've ever avoided, every fear you ignored, they're here. You decide which to face. Daniel swallowed. His hand shook. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The whispers had led him here, not to a conclusion, but to a crossroads. Each door promised answers and consequences. He stepped toward the nearest one. Courage mingled with uncertainty. The glow grew brighter as he reached for the handle. And then, in the moment before he opened it, a whisper came from behind. Not in his headphones, not in the shadows, but inside himself. Don't turn around. He froze. A shiver ran through him. But he realized something profound. He had already made the first choice. From here on, the rest was his. As he pushed the door open, the screen faded to black. The last thing heard was his own breath, steadying, and the faintest echo of laughter. Not mocking, but inviting. The story didn't end. It changed. Daniel stepped through the glowing door, and the corridor dissolved around him, leaving him in a quiet space filled with soft, warm light. The oppressive shadows, the whispers, the cold fear, they were gone, replaced by calm clarity. For the first time in years, he felt at peace with himself. He thought back to the countless nights of isolation, of imagining threats where none seemed to exist, of fearing his own instincts. Every whisper he had heard, every shadow he had sensed, had been a piece of a puzzle he didn't understand until now. They weren't just voices. They were warnings, lessons, a test of courage and trust. The woman appeared beside him again, her presence gentle and reassuring. You've done more than survive, Daniel, she said. You've chosen to face fear instead of running from it. And in that choice, you've discovered yourself. He remembered his mother's cryptic warnings from long ago, words he had dismissed as folklore. Some people are meant to listen, others they shouldn't. Now he understood. It wasn't about hearing voices. It was about listening to himself, trusting what he felt, discerning truth from illusion. The corridor shimmered, and the other doors, the ones representing every choice he had avoided, were no longer intimidating. They were opportunities. Every path he had feared, every decision postponed, was still there, waiting. And he had the strength to face them, one step at a time. Daniel smiled faintly, realizing the voices weren't enemies. They were guides, pointing toward courage, not fear. The whisper that had told him, "Don't turn around," wasn't a threat. It was a lesson. Sometimes, fear isn't meant to stop you. Sometimes, it's meant to teach patience, focus, and the power of choice. He removed the headphones, feeling the absence of sound like a gentle release. The static, the overlapping voices, the chaos, They were memories now, shadows of a past self he had outgrown. Daniel stepped through the glowing door, and the corridor dissolved around him, leaving him in a quiet space filled with soft, warm light. The oppressive shadows, the whispers, the cold fear, they were gone, replaced by calm clarity. For the first time in years, he felt at peace with himself. He thought back to the countless nights of isolation, of imagining threats where none seemed to exist, of fearing his own instincts. Every whisper he had heard, every shadow he had sensed, had been a piece of a puzzle he didn't understand until now. They weren't just voices. They were warnings, lessons, a test of courage and trust. The woman appeared beside him again, her presence gentle and reassuring. "You've done more than survive, Daniel," she said. "You've chosen to face fear instead of running from it. And in that choice, you've discovered yourself." He remembered his mother's cryptic warnings from long ago, words he had dismissed as folklore. Some people are meant to listen. Others they shouldn't. Now he understood. It wasn't about hearing voices. It was about listening to himself, trusting what he felt, discerning truth from illusion. The corridors shimmered, and the other doors, the ones representing every choice he had avoided, were no longer intimidating. They were opportunities. Every path he had feared, every decision postponed, was still there, waiting, and he had the strength to face them, one step at a time. Daniel smiled faintly, realizing the voices weren't enemies. They were guides, pointing toward courage, not fear. The whisper that had told him, "Don't turn around," wasn't a threat. It was a lesson. Sometimes, fear isn't meant to stop you. Sometimes, it's meant to teach patience, focus, and the power of choice. He removed the headphones, feeling the absence of sound like a gentle release. The static, the overlapping voices, the chaos. They were memories now, shadows of a past self he had outgrown. He felt lighter, unburdened, ready to step into a world WHE.